Women's basketball has their narratives floating about. I've seen so much backlash when someone challenges that narrative that you would think these notions were being held in place by avid fans of the sport, except a lot of it isn't. Some of these narratives aren't even from fans of women's basketball, like the belief that women's basketball is not entertaining. A lot of these same people have hijacked the conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark and have used her as a tool to shame the rest of women's basketball. I watched a guy try to discredit women's basketball ratings this year by saying they were low, despite the average ratings were on par with the men, who he also failed to give stats for. When he got to the one Hawkeyes game in his stats, mind you, who also had similar ratings to the other marquee matchups, he was suddenly impressed. I read comments from people online who would trash the WNBA in one post, and then praise Caitlin Clark with comments like, I'd watch the WNBA if she was playing in it. No, you wouldn't. Or at least you wouldn't watch more than a couple games before you forget about it. You don't even watch her play in college now. So to believe that you start watching the WNBA because of her, it's kind of laughable. A lot of these guys usually follow these talk radio or sports show individuals who have a history of shitting on the women's game or young boys who don't appreciate the women's game. Or, and this is something I'm really starting to notice, right-wing pundits have started to rally around Clark to aid her against racist minority takes or homosexual backlash. And God forbid if a black person critiques Caitlin Clark's game or achievements. No matter how nuanced that take is, there will always be someone from that sect to declare racism. What Jay Williams said about Clark is what even NBA greats said about themselves. Their accomplishments don't mean a thing until they win it all. But for some reason, it seems to be a new concept that only came about to hate on Caitlin Clark. The narrative of women's basketball is trying to be steered by people who don't even watch the women play, at the college level or the pros. That's not taken away from Caitlin Clark. Clark is generational talent. She is really popular, and that is fantastic for women's basketball. She can get butts and seats better than any other college player. Only Angel Reese can keep up at a regional level in the States, but not to the degree of Clark. Clark sells tickets, but that alone shouldn't be the measure of someone's greatness. If Clark is content with just being the individual best, then she'll never win a ring. And I doubt that is her mindset. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are like Bird and Magic for women's college basketball. Not that they have a similar style of play, but in regards to the draw that they have, there's nothing bigger than these two. I don't believe the narratives about these two are even accurate assessments of who they are. But it really brings in people. People are very invested in these twos based on how they're portrayed. Angel Reese is kind of portrayed as this thuggish figure, despite the fact she's really girly, into fashion, and her TikTok is flooded with her dancing or primming her hair. Clark is portrayed as this sweet and innocent girl, despite there's tons of video of her yelling at refs and other things that her fans will defend her to the death about. I'm not saying how they truly act is bad. I don't really care. It's just a narrative. People have found their hero in Caitlin Clark, and people have found their villain in Angel Reese. It doesn't mean much, because reality is different from the narrative. The reality is Angel Reese is a hero to a lot of people, and that's something the narrative won't tell you. The one thing that can end the debate with Caitlin Clark being the GOAT is something that she doesn't have, and Angel Reese does. Angel Reese, you could say a lot of things about her, but you can't say that she's not a champion. You could say that Caitlin Clark is better than Angel Reese, but you can't say that Caitlin Clark is a champion. And that is the difference between these two. Now, that is something that Clark will have to live with until she does the one thing that she just doesn't have under her belt, and that's win a championship. Now, a lot of her fans don't really care about that, but in the long run, if she goes the rest of her career just putting up amazing stats and never win it all, that's going to be her legacy. An individual talent, but never someone who was capable of getting her team to the promised land. No college player or professional player or just a player in general wants to be remembered that way. And I'm pretty sure Caitlin Clark does not want her legacy to be that way.